Georgia man who tried to do the right thing by notifying police that he was not the man responsible for shooting a police officer in an armed robbery, but the man ended up in jail. This is who he is. His name is Arterio Crumbley. He's of Clayton County, Georgia. 25-year-old man. He was wrongfully accused of the shooting. Now, the ordeal started on March 2nd when police say that an officer was shot during an armed robbery call. And for some reason, Crumbley became the main suspect. Now, that's when Crumbley said people started reaching out to him to inform him that he was the suspect subject to this police manhunt. He said, people were calling me like, you on the news, you're on the news, they're saying it's you. I thought it was a joke and people just playing. Then my neighbor called me like they were kicking in my door. They think it's you. I'm telling him no. He told police at the time of the shooting, he was 10 miles away at his home in Fayetteville. I had all type of proof. I had pictures with my son sitting right here. We were eating ice cream. I had the neighbors saying it wasn't me. The man at the store, I heard he got on the news saying, hey, Crumbley is not the one you're supposed to have, he said. Now here's a photo of Crumbley and his 3-year-old son that he was with on that day. And after he came to the police department with proof of his airtight alibi, well, the department decided they'd go ahead and put him in jail for 6 weeks anyways. Here's what happened. Although Crumbley's charges were dropped on March 16th, he wasn't released from Henry County Jail until April 14th due to a violation of probation warrant he received on a crime he committed as a 14-year-old. It took 2 weeks before police could use his cell phone to place him at his home. It took another 4 weeks for police to tell media outlets 17-year-old Charles Jacoby Santana Payne was the actual suspect. Now here is that suspect, Mr. Santana Payne. And even though they identified who that man was, it really didn't save Crumbley because the consequences have been real for him. He hasn't been able to sleep since the arrest, he said, and also being labeled a cop shooter. And I'm sure being broadcast across the news as a cop shooter with your photo also doesn't fare very well. And on his ride home, Crumbley says the officer offered an apology, but nobody's given it to him and he wants one. Kyla, how does this sit with you?
Just so frustrating. It's like at every point of him turning himself in, providing the evidence, like having video footage, people calling in and saying that's not him. At every step of the way, like the system failed him. And it's just like, why do we have people working in these type of like, positions in the first place when they are going to let their emotions take over them and then push these judgments and not just look at the evidence right in front of their face. It's completely frustrating. I feel like everyone in that situation should be fired for not doing their jobs correctly. I want him to get his apology. And also, he said that he was gonna sue. So I hope he wins his lawsuit. And it's just also frustrating that, again, that lawsuit is gonna fall in the backs of taxpayers instead of like the people who failed him and caused harm, not only to him, but his family too.
Yeah, and I don't know that he'd win his lawsuit based on the facts that I've read. It did seem like the police, that they did definitely get it wrong. It's kind of sad too, because you're like, what do you think? We all just look alike? So you're thinking, let me just go find another black man because maybe he's a young black man just like this other gentleman, as opposed to going to his home, seeing if he has an alibi, following up, doing some investigatory work, as opposed to just finding a black man's photo and putting it across media outlets, claiming he's a cop shooter. But at the same time, I think the discretion that was exercised here isn't necessarily something that will be able to be a legitimate grounds for a lawsuit. But I don't know. Who knows what the kind of claims Crumbley could argue. But I'll definitely tell you that this has messed him up, I'm sure. Again, being labeled a cop shooter, having your face blasted across media outlets to the point where your neighbors see you, where your friends, people around you in your community identify you as such, because I do not think they blasted his face around, with the level of aggression that they are supposed to be exonerating him. Showing that it was this Charles Jacoby Santana Payne gentleman who did the shooting. And it's just very upsetting and disheartening, particularly because it's almost showing a complete disregard for our lives and just our opportunity to live them post law enforcement making these quote unquote mistakes.
Yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely. And like it was even more frustrating is like the actual perpetrator, he's still on the loose. And so why they were not doing their jobs, why they were ignoring all the evidence in their face, they let someone, who could potentially do more crimes like on the run. And so yeah, like it's frustrating and it's sad to hear that he might not win his lawsuit because he definitely deserves to. He definitely deserves compensation for the loss of time with his family, loss of wages. Like again, all the things that happened to him will affect his future relationships with many people, and especially like even getting a job. And so yeah, like they need to do better by this gentleman. And I hope that people see and pay attention to this and hold the police department accountable.
Yeah, and also I'm wondering, how did he have an outstanding warrant from when he was 14? Like, come on. It's like, I don't think this man was hiding at all. If you actually thought that this warrant was legit, and especially for a 14-year-old, why wasn't it executed a long time ago? Why didn't anybody follow up on it? Why now did this become kind of the crux for why he ended up being held for so long, or why the police didn't do what they needed to do in finding the right suspect? That I do not know, but I do wish Mr. Crumbley the best. And I hope as well that there are better law enforcement tactics employed in the future.